Hey guys, this is KSP with Tape, and today you join me for episode 14 of Solar Civilization. And today we start with the launch. Well, it's kind of a multiple task in one launch sort of situation. I need to send some fuel to the moon to rescue those people who were trapped last episode, and I need to put a docking adapter on the station. And I wanted to use my reusable rocket, but it would be a little kind of pointless to fly too, because well, they can both be carried on one rocket, and I have the big enough fairings, and it's a pretty powerful rocket, so it has a pretty great lifting capability, and is partially reusable, so that's always good. But hopefully we'll be able to reuse that upper stage one day. I'll have to try and figure that out, I guess. Because it is quite a light payload, and I'm going to a higher orbit, we do get the upper stage into a pretty long trajectory, which will take it down on land without any burning, so that'll be interesting. We get a kind of intersect with the station, the Prospector station. I don't think it's been seen since I renamed it, but we're going to quickly redirect our trajectory for this stage, burning hardly any fuel, so I might be able to attempt a propulsive landing. We'll let that fall, but now I was quite tired when I did this, so I just started randomly trying to kill my velocity relative to the target, and that didn't work. But I did get a close encounter on the other side of the planet, so we'll deal with that as it comes. But now we're coming down over land. It's looking kind of good, but all the parachutes burn off. But we do have fuel to propulsively land, and then everything burns up, so that's not great. But anyway, I've put myself on a trajectory that will encounter the Prospector station. Not brilliantly fuel efficient, as quite a lot of mine are, and this was one of the least fuel efficient encounters I've ever done, but I have so much fuel it didn't really matter. I was just trying to rush. I've got to kind of figure out how to not have to rush my orbital maneuvers and be able to reuse the rockets, because you gotta balance it. Yeah, on the top there is my little lander that'll go to the moon, and below it is a docking adapter. I will need more docking space on the Prospector station as I move more things up to it. I haven't done much with it yet, but I probably will be. Oh, and you may notice, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last episode, but I have actually started using the ambient light booster, yay! Which means you can see what's happening even on the dark side of the planet, although the sun has risen now. But yeah. I would also eventually like to I might need a custom docking adapter, because I kind of want to repurpose one of in my old career mode save, which got all screwed up by the new update. I had a really great shuttle, like a proper space shuttle that was like the normal shuttle that you'd see, kind of. If you've seen any of the other KSP series, it was most similar to Scott Manley's one. Actually, it was kind of based on that, but changed, so it wasn't a complete copy. And I kind of want to use that because it's so much fun to fly. But it might need a custom docking adapter. But this docking goes weirdly because I'm having to fly. I have to control from a docking port on the side at the end, and kind of, I don't know. It was really I got really confused trying to do this. I don't know why, but it works out fine. I've done enough dockings to figure it out eventually. This upper stage is kind of custom, so that has its own control. I think it is just a MechJeb unit with a reaction wheel that controls it, but it has a bunch of RCS and a ton of solar panels, so that's fine. I quite like using MechJeb as just kind of the probe core, because it means I don't have to put another one on there, and it gives me all the information, so it's alright, I guess. But anyway, now finally coming in for the docking. I did speed this up. All of this has been sped up as it took a great deal of time. But yeah, that's looking good, so we'll leave that stage a little away from us in orbit. Hopefully it won't come back and hit us at high velocities. But we'll deorbit it now, and then switch back to the... what is this? This is... well, oh yeah, this is the thing going to the moon with the fuel lines. You can see on the side it's got a couple of weird little orange things. Those are fuel lines, so that I can transfer fuel on the ground easily without any kind of crazy rover setup. Because it just makes it quite a lot easier, and I mean, I think it is quite easy to transfer fuel on the ground now because of the grabbing arms that you can use as custom things without having to have some annoying docking setup. But I decided just to go for the Kerbal attachment system option, which is quite nice. So we're going to fly out to the moon. This has more than enough fuel to land. That top tank with all the stuff on it, that's just to transfer into the other craft. That's not any other. It's not for flying. But obviously I can use it if I need to. But that would kind of be a little annoying if I got this stuck on the moon again. I mean, we've already managed to hide this in the expenses, so we wouldn't want the investors to see that we keep screwing things up. We came into the moon kind of a little inclined, but it worked out pretty well because it made us pass right over where we need to land, so it actually saved fuel, which was lucky because, you know, this is a fuel drop. It's actually called fuel drop, that's what the craft is called, because I'm really uninventive. But, you know, I do want to be more inventive. I think if I actually do those shuttle things, I might give them names, like, because the actual shuttles in real life, they were, obviously the first one I think was Columbia, which, you know, burned up on re-entry, which was, you know, sad, but I imagine an interesting spectacle to see, but kind of probably a little morbid. And then Challenger, you know, the one that blew up, and then there was a few others, I've forgotten. There was Endeavour, there was Atlantis, I think, I don't know, there was a lot of shuttles. I'd like to give my names, but probably not the names of the actual shuttles, considering, you know, a few of them did blow up, so it would be a bit of a bad omen and, you know, maybe insensitive at best. But anyway, enough of talking about shuttles and disasters in space. We need to bring this down in our little cluster of ships and flags there. We've got our little base, our ascent module, which is a little low on fuel, and our flag, and some debris, because, well, because I always fire off the science modules, because I don't want to hold them back to orbit, even though they're really light and these are pretty capable craft. The only reason this ran out of fuel is because I had to pinpoint land, and I'm not very good at that, so yeah, it was all my fault, all my flying fault. My design was perfect, obviously, I mean, how could I get it wrong? But this landing's looking good. I'm coming a little jumpily though, and then I fall over and smash one of my solar panels, but I quickly tuck the other one away before, you know, more damage ensues. But we get this annoying roll down the hill, and then I try and counter it so that it works out well, and I screw everything up basically. So I try and fly it around a bit so that the other solar panel's on top, but it doesn't go great. So I decide to screw it and just get Gene Rod out and go and grab one of those fuel lines and put it on the side of our spacecraft, and then attach it to the other spacecraft and get all the fuel, so that we can go home at some point, which will actually be in this episode. We will be returning to the surface of Kerbal, but the pipelines don't stretch that far, so I need to move my craft a little further in. I'll just kind of skate it along the ground, I guess. So let's try and turn it, and there you go. Almost hitting the ascent module there, that would have been bad. But anyway, we'll grab the pipeline now and hopefully be able to take the fuel from it. It's a nice way of connecting fuel, connecting vehicles. I did use the quantum fuel transfer mod for a while in an old... Actually, it was back on when I had a Linux computer and Alt was tied into something else, and I couldn't figure out how to transfer fuel, and it turns out that actually just remapped the controls, which was really dumb. But anyway, now we've saved all that fuel, Gene Rod decides he wants to go and take a look at some of the geological stuff. You know, there's a big mountain over there he wants to take a look at. Here's the geologer, and he did make us land here. So I did speed this up because it was kind of, you know, just EVAing over the surface of the moon, but it was quite a nice spectacle. I really do like, I always say this, but I love how the moon looks now, and Duna, and I'm going there, and Eve actually, which there's a transfer window fairly soon. I could send some guys out there. Of course, we need to be exploring as much as possible because, well, we want to be putting bases everywhere, but Gene Rod is not very experienced at flying, and he kind of just hits the ground and bounces along. He has no Phil Kerman, who is the commander of this mission, or Luke, of course. Luke Kerman. Yeah, those are the two brilliant pilots, and Gene Rod kind of wanted to be a pilot, but he wasn't very good, evidently, so he used his intellect to become a geologist and managed to get his way to the moon. Oh wow, God, my speakers, every single time I do a recording I get a message or something, or they just get interference and it seeps into the video. That's kind of annoying. But anyway, let's take a look at this rock. It looks very interesting, and maybe a little, you know, unexistent, Maybe we are all inside a computer program. It is, of course, the Kerbal Matrix. No, but it would be nice, actually, if the devs did make these rocks solid at some point. Yeah, I think it would give a nice little extra challenge to landing. I mean, some people might not like it, but I quite like the idea of having to not hit rocks and having to think about your landing a little more. But anyway, we've had enough of that, and he's very freaked out by that and must race back to the base and tell everyone about his findings. I found this magical rock that you could just walk inside, and it's not like clay, it's like a hologram. So clearly something or someone has been here before. But he's running a little low on EVA propellant, so he's got to be a little careful so that he doesn't come down too hard. But he's getting pretty close, and yeah, running quite low on EVA propellant. That was kind of the edge of EVA range, and I tend to fly kind of badly because, you know, I'm me. And then he hits his head pretty hard and forgets all about the rock, the hologram rock, so no one will ever know about the crazy hologram rock. He just gets back inside and grabs some snacks, I guess. But anyway, sun sets on the moon, and our constraint is we don't have any power generation now, so we have like 3 hours until we have to leave, so Filling and Luke decide they must abandon the base and get back in the Ascent module. You know, Gene Rod just studying rock samples of, you know, solid rock, not crazy hologram rock. God, I'm getting terrible at storytelling. But anyway, let's get Filling out. Or stare at this craft for a while also would be great. Just, you know, running some checks, turning on the light so Filling knows what he's doing. He gets out upside down, obviously, that's how he does things. He thought he was in Australia, in the other side of the moon, or something, I don't know. So he gets in the craft and then detach it's still attached to the other craft, so he has to get out and unlink it. And at 4 times time accelerator, it looks like they're rushing to get off the moon because of some evil moon tiger. Yep, moon tigers. That's a new thing I'm doing. I'm putting tigers on the moon. That'd be crazy. I bet it would be really weird being an animal in space, like not really knowing what's going on and just floating. I bet they'd get really freaked out. I mean, they did send animals into space for a while, before humans. So, you know, maybe they all came, or like the Simpsons joke where the monkeys come back super intelligent. I bet they did. That's a conspiracy, oh my god. But anyway, we tried to get a little more science. But, yeah, we was not to be. We'd already grabbed that science. At some point I should probably land a Kethane probe here. I mean, the place we just set up our temporary base was actually running near to Kethane fields, if not in one. So maybe I could reuse that little lab and set up a base. But we run almost completely out of fuel, but do get our... Look, we have like less than 1 unit of liquid fuel and exactly 1 unit of oxidizer left. But that was all obviously perfect calculations, and not at all complete fluke. Yep, but there was RCS on board. If I'd run out, I could have just, you know, adjusted it with that. But I do like watching, even at 4 times time accelerate, watching that the module I just dropped explode and fly around in the air. But yeah, that's that mission over. We didn't spend... oh no, we did spend quite a bit of time on the moon. It just didn't look like a huge amount because I was doing some experimenting during it being on the moon, but it was really uninteresting and like didn't go great, so I left it out because it wasn't really anything worth seeing, and that would have probably made it seem like we'd spent longer on the moon. But now we have bigger problems. We're coming down in some crazy void. After seeing that crazy invisible rock, well, not invisible rock, that's kind of rock hologram, and now landing in some weird ocean thing that isn't the ocean and being able to see below the horizon. What is going on? I can tell you what's going on. The game's getting very jittery right now, and I actually, a while ago when I was recording something else, it completely crashed, and everything died. But I managed to rescue it, so don't worry. Anyway, with the science we got from that, we managed to build an old-school SSTO, which you probably guessed from the title of the episode. I believe I'll call it old-school SSTO, but maybe not, who knows. This is an SSTO like we used to build before great rapier engines. We'd have to stick some jet engines on there, and then a liquid fuel engine, and liquid fuel and oxidizer engine. But this carries quite a lot of liquid fuel and oxidizer and not too much jet fuel. And what I usually do when I do SSTOs is I fly up to quite a high altitude and accelerate for ages, but with this I fly a little different, which you'll see in a bit. But this is sped up because it is a fairly standard ascent, but it was, well no, it was, you know, obviously just a flight, so you didn't want to see it in real time, but it was an interesting ascent, I'd say, in the way I did it, so I left it in. It's using kind of like B9 wings, and it's mostly stock, but I like the B9 wings, and those kind of fitted best. But basically I fly up to about 15 kilometers, then tilt over a little more, so we're going to gain as much kind of velocity as possible, without spending ages in the atmosphere, and then just ignite the engine and carry on as if we were flying a rocket, basically. And I have so much fuel on this that it just is absolutely fine. I might even be able to turn this into a cargo craft, depending on well, it isn't in orbit yet, we're not sure, but we have so much fuel that it's definitely going to get to orbit. Phil Kermit, of course, coming a bit of a veteran. He flew that fighter jet last episode. He went to Minmus, I believe. He was the commander of that last moon mission. He's really making a name for himself. Kind of the big dog, while Jebediah is the big dog. I'm saying lots of these. I don't know. But yeah, he's the big guy, the hero, whilst Jebediah is heading out to Duna, and Jeb and Bob are heading out to Duna, and Bill's on station. There's no science to be gained, but this is a pretty incredible craft. Our first SSTO. It's a pretty great way to reuse vehicles. Although I'm not sure about its cargo capabilities. But still, it's a nice spectacle at least. Such a nice spectacle, I might even use that as the thumbnail. You'll know, I don't, but I reckon I probably will. But now we have something a little worrying. We have to re-enter in this, with crazy damage, like aircraft tearing apart Ferrum Aerospace, and deadly re-entry. Who knows what could happen? But yeah, it's could be dicey, and we're in a very low orbit, and around the other side where we're going to do our deorbit burn, it's literally something like 69,000 meters up, which is just on the edge of the atmosphere. So like 69,700. That's 700 meters away from the edge of the atmosphere, roughly. Yeah, so we'll have to, you know, now we're re-entering on the other side of the planet, so we'll have to be in the atmosphere all the way round. However, I still do overshoot a bit, but that is not the most of our problems, as you will see. It is quite a small, like, aircraft made of lots of little parts, so it's not particularly strong, so we are a little worried that, well, at least I'm a little worried that it will tear apart in the atmosphere. And basically, you have to kind of balance slowing down and not spending too much time on fire, basically. And you can't deviate too much from your from your prograde marker in the lower atmosphere, or you'll tear apart, because you spend quite a lot of time above Mach 1. Yeah, so this could be difficult, and it's not a particularly hardy aircraft. It's not like a big shuttle that I often do. Now I'm flaring to try and lead off as much velocity in the upper atmosphere as possible, but yeah, we're still going pretty fast, and we're not even on fire yet. But we are going to way overshoot, as you can see, so I'll have to figure that out. And we just kind of gained altitude there, so it didn't help particularly. It is just a really hard thing to do, returning small aircraft from orbit. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking if this doesn't go particularly well, I'm going to want a bigger kind of, like, quite a lot of the B9 parts give you quite hardy looking spacecraft, and you can just kind of more structurally integral. And I'm thinking this is a little weak looking. But the flames haven't come yet, so but now here we go. Now we're starting to burn up. I'm not too worried about burning up, but I mean, we are going quite fast, and this doesn't bleed off velocity like a normal, like a pod coming back from orbit, but we deviate really quickly and are torn apart. So that's kind of what I was talking about. This is actually the first recording. After this I did try it a few more times, but I decided to keep the first recording. I did actually get it down quite a bit further, like quite a lot further, but it kept tearing apart at some point, so I thought I'd leave it with the first thing. But this is Phil Kerman. He flew the high altitude, this is Icarus Mark 3. No, Icarus Mark 2, I think. Icarus? yeah, this is the Icarus Mark II spacecraft, and he flew the Icarus Mark I, which incidentally tore apart in a very similar way. If you remember, it's the one that gained high altitude science, and then tore apart and was left with basically the same setup, except not a fuel tank, a science bay, and then these two little wings, and he managed to fly it back and cushion his fall. However, this is water. Phil Inkerman looks very scared, but he's unable to bleed off enough velocity, and this is slowed down into 1 times time accelerate now. It's a shame there's no land bar lowers, because there is that nice little landing gear. It's not looking great, so eventually I'm going to have to build a much tougher aircraft that will be able to withstand re-entry, because this was just too kind of weak. Because if it deviated at all, I found when I was retrying it, if it deviated at all it would just tear apart. But now we've slowed down too much and are falling too downwards, and it is destroyed, and Phil Inkerman is killed, which is horrible, because Phil Inkerman was a hero. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you'll consider... I just knocked over my fan. That's what that was. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you consider leaving a like, and I'm looking forward to the next episode. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.